Hey, this is Alain Ginsberg, and you are watching AVANT GODS. I started writing poetry in high school because it was like the first thing I did, and I didn't hate myself for it. I mean, it was high school, so I felt shitty all the time, but it was one of those things where I produced creative work, and I was like, wow, I don't immediately think this is terrible. Let's see where this goes. Just kept doing it. Found like spoken word through YouTube and stuff. Went in, looked at open mics, started going to those, and it just kind of like snowballed from there. First poems I wrote about that, I mean, they're all terrible now, but it was a lot of stuff about like the monotony of school, how school's just like being dead. It was just a bunch of teenage angst, but the stuff I first started writing about that, like, I still can look back and be like, yeah, I actually was doing something, was, I don't know, like, stuff about my family, like, going through trying to dissect that kind of baggage we all got from shit happening when we're kids, not really understanding it, just still trying to process all of that, trying to, like, deal with my depression in a way that isn't just like, oh, I'm sad, like, no, I'm depressed, it's like a chronic thing, and just like trying to articulate that in a way that might not be grammatically correct, but it still captures the feeling I'm feeling. The point of slam poetry, the way slam poetry was created as a thing, was an excuse to get people to like poetry again. It was an excuse to get people to engage and be interested in hearing creative and good poetry. And it was started up like all for those purposes, about like raising up marginalized voices and telling the stories that people don't listen to. Like, I don't know, people will, like, you'll find your friend groups to talk about the struggles you're going through, but I did an event in Phoenix, Arizona, and I talked about the fact that I'm, like, got a lot of gender dysphoria, and I don't identify as a man, and I'm queer, and Phoenix, Arizona is not the place people talk about those things, but because of competitive poetry, people listen to me, and I got to say those things on those platforms. So I'm more interested in the fact, like, I got into slam poetry to tell my story and have people engage with it. And it doesn't always go well. A lot of times, like, flops out. Like, people don't get it, people don't vibe with it, and that happens. But at the same time, they listened, and like I've had people talk to me about the things I've written. Sometimes it helps, sometimes like other people come up to me and they say like, thanks for like sharing that. Like, I have gone through these kind of things as well, but I don't have the means to articulate it. And I, like, the people I'm with, I'm glad they got to hear that too, because they don't know that I'm going through this as well. And it's pretty awesome. Like, that's cool. Just like touching and affecting lives in that kind of way. And that's why I still write. Just like trying to keep telling my story.